The open mic session is designed to provide an opportunity for citizens to express their views on matters of concern to the school committee. The sessions are not designed to encourage debate or lengthy exchange of views, but are to have the committee understand numerous points of view. The committee would appreciate speakers keeping their presentation to 3 minutes in order to accommodate as many people as time permits. The chair reserves the right to limit the number of speakers on the same topic to 3. All speakers must be at least 18 years of age or enrolled in high school and public schools district and having discussed their views with a student government representative. The chair reserves the right to rule the speaker out of order if they feel that the speaker's comments are personal in nature. If a speaker's comments are directed at a school committee member or a member of school administration in attendance, that member, through the chair, may address the individual. Anyone wishing to speak at open mic? Anyone for open mic? Last call for open mic. We will close open mic portion of the evening, and we will call to order the second special meeting of the school committee. Roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Present.
Member Dugan?
Present.
Member Gately?
Present.
Member Pena?
Present.
Member Reed? Present. Member Satterwhite? Absent. Mayor Nicholson?
Present. For those who are able, if you could please rise for a salute to the flag and remain standing. Silence after. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence in memory of Bradford C. Green, retired teacher who passed October 13th, 2024. And Robin Perry Russo, retired custodian, October 14th, 2024. Thank you. Time is the minutes.
Make a motion to accept the minutes from the 15th regular meeting on October 10th, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next is a school nurse election.
Good evening. The recommendation is to elect school nurse Tracy Ercolini. What's the will of the committee?
Is there a motion?
Motion to accept the school nurse election of Tracy Ursulini.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Pardon me. Member Castellanos?
Tracy Ursulini.
Member Dugan?
Tracy Ursulini.
Member Gately?
Tracy Ursulini.
Member Pena?
Tracy Ursulini.
Member Reed?
Tracy Ursulini.
Member Satterwhite? Absent. Mayor Nicholson?
Tracy Ursulini. Next, we have presentations, beginning with facilities.
Hello, everyone. We wanted to give you an update on facilities improvements and the added seats that it brought to surface. First, Breed Middle School. As you know, we had taken the library space and reallocated it to create 5 classrooms, new classrooms, and 6 new office spaces. The total added classroom seats equal approximately 125 students. That would be 25 students per classroom. And then the 6 new office spaces added total, obviously, 6 staff members who are utilizing that space instead of being doubled up in other areas. And the photos are photos of the new spaces and how they've been decorated and designed. Cobbett Elementary, we also added classrooms there. In 2023-24, the old structure of the pre-K classrooms that were there, we had 1 classroom that was half day, which equaled 15 students in the AM session, 15 students in the PM session, for a total of 30. So this isn't added seats, but it's added opportunity. In this school year, 24-25, the new structure, those instead of 1 classroom of 30, 15 and 15, it's 2 classrooms, full day, 15 in one class, 15 in the other. So still 30 students, but it's full day versus half day. And that full day provides a more meaningful experience for the students, but also for the families and caregivers, as it allows families to work. Instead of having to worry about, picking up their child or dropping off their child. And then in January of 2025, this school year, we're projected to expand 2 additional classrooms, pending the program model It has the potential of being an additional 30 to 36 additional seats. The model is determined by if it's an integrated classroom, an inclusion classroom, a self-contained classroom. Each classroom has a different number associated with it, which is why you have the range there. And the photographs there are of the new Cobbett classroom that is actually functioning. You can see the children are enjoying that space, and the space has really been set up as a true developmental pre-K. And then we have the Early Childhood Center at Bennett Street. You can follow the arrows around. School year 24-25, so this school year we added 3 new pre-K classrooms, which equaled to 45 new seats at Bennett Street. And then we needed to move a classroom from Callahan to Bennett Street due to enrollment at Callahan being too high and needing to split a classroom, and there was no additional space to split it for kindergarten, I believe. And so we moved the pre-K to Bennett Street. The pre-K at Callahan at the time was a half-day program, and so the parents were contacted, asked if they were interested in a full-day program. And so we were able to make that happen. We're trying to keep Bennett Street consistent so that there's equity in full day versus some having to have half day. And then in January, we are expected to open 3 new classrooms and providing approximately 40 additional pre-K seats, again, depending on the model. And then next year, school year 25-26, the possible additional expansion of second floor of Bennett Street adds 8 to 10 pre-K classrooms, expected to move ECC Bessem Street, which is the Holy Family site, over to Bennett Street, and that still leaves 2 to 4 classrooms available for approximately 60 additional new seats. And then these are photos of students who are at Bennett Street. We hear them daily. It's a lot of fun. If you're looking for something to do on Thursday at 1 o'clock, the little ones are coming up. They've been learning about community and roles in the community, and so they've been asked to dress as a community member, and they're coming upstairs, and we're going to be giving treats. We already have ours in our office, and we're going to have signs on outside our doors to talk about like what is our role in the community. So for us, it's supporting the schools. For Mr. McHugh, it's hiring teachers for them, and so it should be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to seeing them come up.
Thursday at 1?
Thursday at 1. And so, oh, go ahead.
You'll be giving away dollar bills to all the pre-Ks.
Just taping them to the door.
And then we have the Virginia Barton Center for Teams and LVTI. So in February of this year, we're expected to be able to open up the Virginia Barton Center and move the 6 to 7 classrooms and the 3 office spaces from LVTI to the Virginia Barton Center. It's February because the construction will be done end of December, early January, but we needed, we cannot move anyone in there until the Department of Education approves the site for them to be there. So we have to have that approval before anything can happen. And we wanted a natural transition. And so February vacation, we felt, was a natural transition. We would use the vacation to move everything over, and they would return to school in their new site. So we're expecting to do that in February. And then February 25 to August 26, we will prepare class and shop space at LVTI. To prepare 7 classrooms, 3 office spaces, and expand shops for construction craft and an additional cosmetology expansion. And then in school year 25-26, we're hoping that there will be approximately 130 new seats at LVTI due to the 2 classrooms for construction craft, 1 room for expanding cosmetology, and then of course an ELA class, math class, science class, and history class for the core subjects they need to take. And then the next steps, we are in conversations around the STEAM Academy at the Fector Leary Building, the Frederick Douglass Collegiate Academy at 195 Market Street, the LVTI Biotech Lab, adding that lab, which as a result will add another vocation. And then the Lynn English stage will hopefully be ready to go. And so those are the updates as of right now. And any questions, I'd be happy to answer to the best of my ability.
Before we dive into the question, I just want to say thank you for the presentation and thank the entire LPS team for all the work on this, and superintendent and the deputy in a role with facilities, and some of these projects were in motion when you were working as interim as well. And we've known for years that this is a huge priority, right? That we've all been trying to address overcrowding. We've made some real great progress over the years, and it continues to be a challenge all around the district. And we hear that all the time from our teachers, from our staff, from our families. And I think these are just really great examples of projects that we've been able to execute that shows some real ingenuity and grit to get this done, get this work done. And I want to thank the LPS team. I want to thank the ISD team, Mike and Laura, and also all the contractors we had in the building, and the ISD staff that helped us prepare the spaces, as well as Michael and Bertino and the CFOs, the finance team for helping us engineer some of these transactions, working hand in hand with LPS and Kevin in his office. I just think it's worth a minute. There's a lot we've done over the years, a lot coming down the pike that we just saw. But these are all seats that we added, really over the summer, and some amazing work that went into that. And I just want to thank the team.
Yeah, I would just add to that watching pre-K is at the core of my heart. I taught pre-K for a number of years in Lynn, and to watch the little ones really flourish and develop and explore and experiment and learn is just been so much fun. We're not hearing as many cries out in the playground as we used to at the beginning, so that's development in itself. And it's just great to see. It really is great to see.
Great. Questions?
Yeah.
Member Gailey.
So I am thrilled about the Lynn English High School stage. I have been so waiting for such a long time for this to be done, Deb, and you too have been waiting, and it will be done soon, hopefully this year.
I believe there will be a phase of it that will be done this year, and then the rest of it will be done the following year.
I know all the teachers and staff at Lynn English and students have been waiting for that. The other thing is, I love this presentation. We've been working with you and I, been working through this as Building and Grounds Chair, so it's a great presentation. But I just wanted to ask one thing to the school committee. I like to get out ahead of a project, so like the Virginia Barton Center, I would like to get out and walk the neighborhood. Could we get some kind of flyer available maybe in December, and a few of us can walk and explain to the neighbors what's going on, so they're in the loop and they're not all nervous about what's happening. So I'd like to get that done, but I'm so happy it must look beautiful now.
We're waiting for some photos. They're doing a lot of work demoing and preparing the space. Laura Stockfish, last communication with her was that she was going to send me some photographs that could be shared with families when Dr. Kalala and Leanne Palmer, the director, will meet with families. So when we have those photos, we'll share those with you as well. And certainly you'll be invited to attend the meeting if you'd like with the families.
I think several of us would like to attend that, and we'd also like to hand out those just so the neighbors know. And I just think this is great. This is a great little bit of information that's going out to our community right now on all the improvement and all the work that you've been doing all year. Thank you.
Member Castellanos.
Yeah, I want to echo just a little bit what Member Gately shared about just the excitement and how much time, and over the years, just I think the 6+ years I've been on the committee, I think the pre-K expansion issue has been something that was always a yearly conversation, and to see it come into light the way it is now is just, I think what the mayor put on it out really good. It's a big deal to see it come to fruition, and to see it come to fruition over the summer and be executed throughout the many projects that we have going on. It's actually very impressive, and I'm very grateful for all the work that it took with the city and all of us together to collaborate on those projects. I did have a question about the library space for Breed. Where did the library, or like, you know how I just got a little confused about the reallocated part?
I believe they took a classroom.
E201.
What was it?
E201.
Oh, E201. Very good. E201, and made it into a media center. They acknowledged that they really didn't need the expansive space for the media center, but did want a media center, so they utilized a classroom space for that.
That's awesome. And just on the Virginia Barton Center, the new seats for at Lynn Tech, is that, when we say 130, that's student enrollment, like 130 new students?
Yeah, so as those classrooms open up, then you multiply that by the 4 years that the students would be there.
Okay, that's awesome. That's great. That's awesome. That's a big deal.
Yeah,
That's-
I mean, we've had
yeah.
long waiting lists.
Yeah.
So this would open up more opportunities for students that do apply and aren't accepted because of the limited seatings. And we're also venturing into vocational technical opportunities that are actually expanding in our region. Is really important as we are trying to prepare students for the available work that will be there in the future.
I agree. I think CT is vital. I think workforce development wise, it's a huge industry that we could tap into. I think every time I step over to Lynn Tech and I see Skills USA or anyone from LBTI, and the camaraderie and just the legacies that are built there, it's just incredible and really inspiring. And as we're in their building, you know, when you walk by, you know, it's a special place, and I'm grateful that we're really focused on investing in LVTI, and as a community, it's a big deal. I'm grateful for those pathways that will generate opportunities for our children in this city to have good paying jobs. You know, I'm tired of poverty wages around here, so I think when you get a trade, you get it made.
Yeah, and I'm very thankful for the state's contribution to help us with expansion, because that funding has been very important for reconstructing the space, having the available lab space and lab equipment and supplies, and ability to then form our partners by showing them that we have effective training places for our students.
My question is, are we allowed to talk about the After Dark program, like the grant money? I don't know if that wasn't on the agenda. Okay, so I'm glad you talked
Yes,
about
it's
that.
in the superintendent's report,
Okay.
so it'll be public with all the amounts. And these seats are in addition to any seats that will be created for new programs.
Yeah.
Right, because these are existing. So this is in addition to. So we'll have by the end of this school year, we'll have a better number to share on the total number of seats between the program that opened this year, the biotechnology, and any upcoming programs that will be opening. Yes.
That's great.
And I just want to point out, Member Castellanos, and sort of echo your point about how big a deal this is to grow the tech. We have this huge waiting list. We've had it for years, and it's not unique to Lynn that the Voc Tech schools are getting all this interest. What's unique to Lynn is that as an in-district tech, we can sort of nimbly move to create the seats, and we have a great team in place between LPS and the city and the various stakeholders, school committee, the council. Everybody sees this demand from our students to get this kind of education and the incredible work that the educators are doing here at Tech, and can move to actually do something about it. That's a lot harder in other communities that are trying to figure out how to finance this and how to set it up and so on and so forth. And also, sometimes over the number of students that we have, it can feel overwhelming and it can feel like a huge challenge. But we taking that sort of asset-based lens, because we have so many students, we can nimbly add programs that are meeting workforce needs, that don't come at the expense of other schools. It's not, and that can be an issue in other communities. You say we want to add this shop because there's a demand in industry, but what about that's going to pull from this? You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so thinking about it as a strength, and of course there are challenges, and that's why we're talking about facilities, right? But the flip side of that is that this growth, I think, is really positive for the economy as well. So, Member Pena.
Yeah, Miss, can you read my notes? You echoed my thoughts about my notes. No, just kidding. No, really, on the right side. Thank you to all the LPS staff, all the stakeholders, everyone in the city. Like, this is what it means to me, like, thinking outside the box, like, really putting our minds together and finding space, and that's a game changer. I really, the pre-K expansion, the full days for parents, like, that's a game changer, especially creating stability for parents who need that time, to be able to go to school and work and have the kids in a stable, instead of, a split class, in the afternoon, in the morning. I had a question. My question is about there were some funds that we were using for the completion of some of the projects, right? With, like the Virginia Barton Center.
Funds.
Yes,
Yeah.
so there were certain funds. Are we going to meet those deadlines? I just hate to see us with some projects and then we're surprised with the
Yeah,
with the
everything, all the deadline, so the funds are exhausted.
funding. Okay.
And they communicated with us that any final reports we have an extension till, I think, February of 25. But we're on track to meet all of the reporting that's required.
Were they ESSER funds?
Yes, they were
Yeah,
ESSER
ESSER.
3 funds, correct.
Okay, and we're not gonna, no surprises, we're not
No,
gonna.
everything was invested,
Okay,
yes.
Not one penny missed.
all right, that's awesome. Thank you everyone for great work.
Stuff.
Which was no easy feat to hit that number on the head. Yeah. So-
We were nimble. That's the word. I like that word, Mayor. Nimble.
Great. Well, thank you so much for the presentations, for the questions. And next we have curriculum instruction, teaching and learning.
Patty, do you want to just come and sit? Our Chief Academic Officer, Patty Hebert, created this incredible presentation to discuss walkthroughs, but Molly's going to assist her because she has no voice.
Yeah. So Deb is just putting it up now.
Sugar Hill Gang stole mine.
Well, I'll get out of the way.
Thank you. No. Perfect. Okay, thank you. Okay, good evening, everyone. I am going to be the Chief Academic Officer's voice for this evening. As you'll recall, we started Learning Walks last year. This is the second iteration of our Learning Walks. So there are many different tools that we use to track the type of teaching and learning that's happening in the classroom and to be able to gauge whether or not our students are meeting their student outcomes. Tonight, we're going to just talk about the Learning Walks. Okay. The purpose, if you'll recall, we had a conversation about this last year. The walkthroughs are anonymous, so they're non-evaluative, but we are trying to collect data. This year, we're going to collect data in a way where we can track the grade level and the content area across all 28 schools. So the purpose is to be very brief. We work district and school teams together, and we go into the classrooms for about 15 minutes, and while we're in there, we're observing real-time instruction and gathering the data of those instructional practices on a rubric. We use a uniform rubric that DESE has recommended. This is actually a new draft of a rubric from DESE in order to ensure that we are tracking rigor, student engagement, and equitable practices. So there are two connections to why we're using this tool. One, as you'll recall, is our district strategic plan priority area 1. And that is we're centering the core instruction through the lens of culturally and linguistically responsive practices. So we received a lot of feedback from the community and all the stakeholders that that is the area that we need to elevate to ensure that all of our students are receiving equitable access and success to grade level tier 1 texts, instruction, materials, assessments, etc. On the right-hand side of the bottom portion of this slide, that with the blue and the orange writing, that is a capture of our instructional focus area for our district prioritization plan. So last year we had a very similar aim statement, which is the top one, the instructional focus one, that teachers will use PLCs to unpack language demands. So that focus area was the same one we had last year, where we talked about WIDA standards and combining WIDA standards and the content standards to ensure that our multilingual learners were able to be successful with grade level standards. This year's prioritization plan has a second piece to it, and that is the bottom portion, where we are intentionally focusing on 7th grade math classes. So if you think about school improvement as a cycle, the DESE is also asking districts that are prioritization districts to focus on one piece of the entire system to collect data on and to provide additional supports. So all teachers are focusing on the scaffolds that students need, those cultural and linguistic responsive practices, but we are specifically collecting also data on 7th grade math. So we chose 7th grade math because it's a touch point for both 5th grade and 9th grade. That framework that I'm referring to for the observation tool elevates the equitable practices that we're trying to elevate here and the culturally and linguistic responsive strategies. And so, for example, last year we had a very simple tool, and it really was based in the priority areas that we evaluate students with. So we have meeting diverse needs, student engagement, well-structured lesson plan. This year, this tool in particular, I'm not going to speak to all of them, but I do want to raise one in particular that really centers the culturally and linguistically responsive. So it says all students engage in learning that values and leverages their identities, experiences, interests, home languages, and or cultures. This is a very specific lens to look and observe and collect data on learning. This is a different type of way of observing the classroom. And then the other piece also is all students think critically about content and resources of the lesson to identify, analyze, and or examine real-world topics or problems. And students examine, assess the content, credibility, and biases of diverse perspectives and resources. So we're elevating the rigor around what equitable practices look like. The tool is considered research-based, and so it allows for us being able to compare data across all of the different schools. We're fostering shared language and common goals. It provides a clear understanding of the instructional quality, and it ensures a unified message about instruction and improvement efforts. So we have a team. It's a small team. The principals chooses who will be on the team with us and what classrooms we'll see. We actually decided that it was more important to calibrate around the tool and be sure that we're collecting the correct data. So we observe 3 classes, sometimes 4, but it's more important that we go back and discuss each classroom and calibrate on what our findings are for that classroom. So this is the process. We take notes, we record our evidence, Again, I cannot stress enough when I talk about recording evidence, there are no names, there are no classrooms, it is simply what did we observe happening, what was said, what was written, what was produced for teachers and students. So that's the type of evidence that I'm talking about. And then we calibrate on it. Last year, we received feedback from the schools that after the walkthrough left, that teachers felt like, like that's it? Like there's no feedback to us? Because we were so cautious about not being evaluative that we were like building relationships and going to seeing classrooms. But then for that teacher, it's like you're in, you're out, and you don't hear or there's no response. So we developed another tool, which we're calling the Look For tool. And that also is calibrated with the team. And it's a glows and grows. And it's very, very simple. So it is, here are all of the positive things that we observe that are trends. Because remember, again, I can't stress enough, that is not individual practice. It's trends and patterns across the school and then really across the district. So we're identifying trends that are positive. And then we are identifying something that is a quick win. So a quick win for that day doesn't require additional professional learning. It's maybe a reminder to revisit the objectives in the middle of your lesson or to consider data when you're regrouping your students for small group. It is not additional professional development. Additional professional development does come into play when we look at the trends across the district and we see where we need to provide professional development for administrators and teachers. So this is just a quick grows and quick win. Increase the use of higher order questioning techniques to promote critical thinking. Incorporate more visual aids to support student comprehension for complex topics. That type of something that a teacher is aware of but may have forgotten in that lesson, or, oh, that's something I should go back and reconsider. So the impact, the learning walks do inform our targeted professional development because this is where we're going to identify where is that improvement. We know that culturally and linguistically responsive practices is something that we need to center in professional development. And so this is helpful in collecting the data across the district to be able to identify, is it a content area, is it grade specific, that we need to differentiate professional development for. And so it's very simple, the continuous improvement model. You sort of start on the left side-ish at the top. So it's learning walks, data collection, then you analyze the data, then you provide feedback, then you target the professional development. Then from the professional development, we hope to see instructional adjustments. And then from those instructional adjustments, we hope to see improved student outcomes. And then you continue the cycle again. And that's the presentation. How did I do, Miss Hebert?
Thank you so much for the preparation and for the delivery. Questions? Yep, Member Dugan.
Thank you for the presentation, Ms. Hebert. Her voice, thank you. Just a couple kind of logistic questions. Yeah. The first one's, how are teachers or principals kind of preparing their staff for something like this? I mean, I would think principals are encouraged to do these throughout the day, and but it can be quite daunting for a teacher when 3 or 4 of their superiors are kind of walking in and yeah,
sure.
So how are the teachers kind of being prepped for this?
So I was at Brickett today for a learning walk. There were 4 administrators, myself, and 3 district administrators, and then Principal Albert Benedict. She had given her staff notification and communication that the learning walk was going to happen, did not share what rooms we were going to be in because she wanted everyone to equally be, ready for it. And shared that it was not evaluative, that it was to collect data on our school, and that they would receive feedback.
Okay.
And it went very well. I was very impressed. All of us were. But with any learning walk, there's always
Yeah.
the strengths and then the areas that just to think about.
Yeah. So you're correct. Like the input of teachers is extremely important. When we chose to go with this is considered an agnostic rubric because it's not content specific, so that we could be more flexible with it. But the DESE also produces content specific. But we had a team this summer that vetted this tool. And then the principals, principals were on that team as well. And then in our principal PLC, we shared this tool. And we also have a survey to administrators and teachers.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then one other one about the look-fors for the teacher doing. So you said you'd be looking for teachers that have grouped students based on data. I guess my question is, how can the people that are coming in for the learning walk tell that group is properly based according to data when it's just
So there we
kind of a
don't-
dipstick, I guess you could say, in there?
Yeah, no, there are no like rules around
Yeah.
not being able to speak to the teacher. And
Okay.
if it's not, we're not
Okay.
there to interrupt, right? So,
Yeah.
but as you know, right, like it's very organic, the environment. And so there are times when the instruction is underway that you can simply ask the teacher, how are they
Okay.
grouped?
All right, perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
That was that. Thank you.
And Member Dugan,
Oh, yeah.
just as a to remind everyone that all teachers have access to Open Architects, which has facilitated that process for teachers
Okay.
to make decisions based on the data that their students are generating during assessments, so that they it's very easy for them to now pair instead of having to go through a number of
Yeah.
different sources to figure out how they would actually do some differentiated instruction.
So the program actually,
Yeah.
so they enter their students, the
Yeah.
program actually makes the groups for them?
Well, it tells them based on
recommends.
the standard,
Okay.
right? Like where students are scoring, so
Okay.
they can sort this information any way they want.
Okay.
So depending on what they're going to deliver in the lesson, they can sort all of the data for the students.
And
Great.
I was just the other thing I was just gonna mention was the principals and administrators who are on the team. It's quite impressive how well they know their students.
Yeah.
So, when they're going through the classrooms, these are classrooms that they've been in
Yeah,
and,
they've
and
been in and
know
familiar
well
with,
their
right.
students. Yeah.
Right.
And through our own supervision, the three of us, we sit in on PLCs. We can't be at every single
Right.
one, but we go to our schools, we sit in on PLCs. We're witnessing teachers using Open Architect, elevation, the teachers are using their
Yeah.
own student data to talk about how they're grouping, what their instructional focus is gonna be.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Member Gately.
I'd like to ask about secondary level. How are these walkthroughs? Could you give me an example?
We went to one high school late last week. So principals received information about our learning walks, and executive directors of all the departments decided which actual schools they'll participate in. So we have representatives from curriculum and instruction, MLE, and special ed with us on these learning walks. And the observation tool was also shared with the principals, so they were at liberty to share the tool with the teachers. At the school that I was present at last week, we observed 3 classes, and the majority of them were 9th and 10th grade, co-teaching, and they were ELA and ESL. So we were able to watch instruction for about 20 minutes in each of the classes, and calibrate our observations and rate how in each of the standards, if they were, meeting, mostly, not yet there, those type of things, and then calibrated our grows and glows.
And then will you come around again at another point to
Yes.
see how
Yes.
they
So-
progress?
So these learning walks are, as I said, include other members, other assistant directors and executive directors from other departments. Usually on my site visits to the schools, I conduct learning walks with the principals. So we do this regularly, and it's really to speak with the principal about what's the feedback that you would provide to the department head and the teacher in moving instruction and student learning.
And how are the teachers responding to this?
My experience with them, they were welcoming of us joining the classroom. I enjoyed my time at the school and I didn't want to leave. The students were awesome in their engagement and their thirst for knowledge, and the teachers just having such great positive relationships with them. So it was, I would say, a great learning environment, environments conducive to learning. And the teachers felt like we were just members of the faculty present in the classroom. You could always tell by how the students react to your presence.
Yeah.
If the teacher's if the teacher's uneasy, and the students were pleasantly pleased with us. And I mean, I observed teachers giving feedback to students on their writing, and just taking down notes as they're speaking to each other, but they were speaking at liberty with each other about the content, the expectation, and what supports they would need to complete the assignment.
I just wanted to speak to, it sounds like you have a concern for the high schools, and Deputy Superintendent Goris has been also involved with the TNTP project, which is the district prioritization plan. We invested in a contract with the new learning project, the new teachers project, and that's focused specifically on ELA and math, and they work with the ELA and math department heads around healthy PLCs, increasing rigor, and classroom observations and trends and patterns. So they're getting a double dose, the high schools, on this type of support.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah,
when I
that
said
was what we were thinking
secondary, I
about.
meant, like middle and high school.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for your work here. It really, I enjoyed it. I think that some of my colleagues enjoyed it. I believe they would. I know Eric did. I got it. Eric got it.
I love this stuff.
And I will share it with all of you, and they will too. So thank you. I just want to thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to see how secondary was, because a lot of times I hear calls, I get spoken to by secondary people that, why is this happening? And I want to make sure that they understand why things are happening. It's not like to make sure you're doing your job and all this stuff. So that's why I'm asking about specific secondary.
It's important for us to do the learning walks to support our leaders in what instructional strategies would be important for our teachers to implement so they can experience student achievement happening. And so we don't know what we don't know until, we gather other minds and other perspectives. We all have blind spots, and it's important to get some feedback on that. I mean, we're all invested in building teachers' skills and delivering instruction. It's been a hard 4 years, I would say, since the pandemic, right? And I think we finally have our legs, like we don't have sea legs anymore. And the student culture is very positive this school year, and they're very much engaged, and this is like the ripe time to really look at adult practice and what we can do differently. But it's about retaining our staff and supporting their skill development. There's always something to learn.
Thank you.
And I just want to add that in addition to the larger teams doing learning walks, I walk with principals at each school on a regular basis, and spend a great deal of time going through not just observations, but clinical feedback with principals, calibrating the instructional strategies that we observed together, and providing them with additional ideas on how to mentor teachers. And their leaders have given a lot of positive feedback on that. And so, and I think it's necessary, right? Our principals need to grow, and through teaching and learning, it's teaching and learning for us as district leaders to better understand the needs of our principals and our teachers, and really talking about rigor and complexity when we're looking at what is the delivery of a lesson, what are the questions being asked, are they higher order thinking questions, how do we progress when they're not into, because it's all about, right, what does that progress look like? So that's been happening since we opened school. And the students are very receptive when I'm usually sitting in a classroom, right? They actually want to talk to me and engage. And so, you know, we've seen, and they give a lot of feedback, especially the secondary students. They talk about, you know, some of the differences between some of the seniors that we have on the Centering Youth Voices student advisory group have discussed their experience in 9th and 10th grade versus what it looked like last year and this year so far. And it's very positive. So, and you'll hear from them at one of the meetings, because they're eager and want to speak to you.
I remember. Yeah.
Quick question. So I'm looking at the observation tool, the DESI. And then now that, you know, Lorraine asked if you did a walkthrough, I'm wondering, did you get to see any of the students? Because I'm reading here, students have the opportunity to leverage their home language to explore new concepts and engage with their peers. Did you get to witness some of that?
I did.
I'm curious, what did that look like?
It was pretty awesome.
Especially we have a lot of L's in the secondary level.
It was an advanced ESL class, and they were reading a novel. I forget the title of the novel right now, sorry. But the novel was tied to a documentary, and the novel is centered around the narrative of a young adolescent going through the rise of communism in Romania. And the documentary now then talks a little bit more about the historical and political issues of that time in the country and who those leaders became. So they're comparing the narrative, the experience from the voice of a teenager, what the teenager has and doesn't have anymore as a result of the historical and political issues at that time. And it was very encouraging of the students really connecting the political issues of Romania to their lived experiences from their previous countries, and using their Latin language to actually pin familiarities with the Romanian language and usage. So students were very engaged and had lots to say, were contributing.
Yeah.
The questions were critical thinking questions. They weren't just, yes or no questions. It was really thoughtful questions as a result of the documentary.
Yeah, because I'm reading that teachers use questions or tasks to support the students' activity, draw upon their backgrounds and experiences to connect to new concepts, to their lived experiences and cultural assets. I mean, you just touched upon that.
That's what I observed, and that was an example. That classroom is an example of that, and the students were definitely, speaking, writing, and listening in English, and using their previous knowledge to access that learning. And whenever you walk in a classroom where you're hearing more student voices than just the educator voice, the students are really critically thinking and really critically engaged in the lesson. So that's an example.
Thank you. It's good news.
Great. Well, thank you so much for the presentation and to everyone's work on this. Next item is a LBTI field trip to Southern New Hampshire University in Manchester on December 11th. Recommendation of the superintendent.
The recommendation is to approve the LVTI students field trip to Southern New Hampshire University in Manchester, New Hampshire on December 11th, 2024.
Is the will of the committee?
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And then the superintendent's report.
Thank you. So October has been a busy month filled with celebrations for expanding student learning opportunities. Last week, the Secretary of Education, Dr. Patrick Tutwiler, and the Acting Commissioner of the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, Russell Johnston, along with other state officials, visited Lynn Vocational Technical Institute to engage with our Skills USA students and student participants of the After Dark program, an innovative career vocational technical education program that offers vocational studies after the school day. Lynn Public Schools has been offering this program for a number of years. This year, we are especially grateful for the $397,625 award to allow for 48 more seats annually in advanced manufacturing, HVAC, metal fabrication, and joining technologies, and health assisting, which are all areas where there is locally high demand in the labor market. Lynn Tech is equally thrilled to receive an additional state grant of $750,000 for a new construction craft laborer program. These two state grants total $1.15 million for career and technology education. We're excited to expand the opportunities for our vocational students at Tech as we prepare them for their future. As we focus on instructional priorities, learning walks are underway in the district. These opportunities for teaching and learning provide valuable opportunities to observe instructional practices, collect data, and support ongoing improvement in our schools. As curriculum discussed in the presentation tonight, teachers and students are engaging in our high-quality instructional materials with integrity to deliver the curriculum. We are ensuring that all students have equitable access to grade-level texts and activities that challenge and capture the interest of our diverse learners. The adult learning structures developed for our schools across the district last year and principal PLCs have been evident in the classrooms during these walkthroughs. Turning to a different kind of walking, we're happy to participate in the Safe Routes to School program administered by the Mass Department of Transportation, which is designed to provide safer walking, biking, and rolling for students. In October, Brickett Elementary students participated in the International Walk, Bike, and Roll to School Day. The October superintendent's teacher cabinets met to discuss this year's collaborative work and the evident and significant progress made towards last year's targets. Each cabinet member is actively participating in a focus group to explore a selected pertinent topic of choice in addition to conducting building surveys to inform future cabinet topics. These dedicated members, our teachers, are openly discuss their hopes for their year's sessions, their roles as conduits, and identification and prioritization of topics. Their celebration of contributions to policy change and transparency is greatly appreciated and necessary. Centering Youth Voices held the first cabinet session with me to discuss this year's work. This cabinet is composed of returning and new student members, set an agenda for the year, recognizing their role as advocates for their peers. These students, grades 9 through 12, expressed their hopes for this year's cabinet and enthusiastically began planning their root cause analysis project with a focus on dropout rates. These students also had a lengthy discussion about the KIPP Academy expansion application and how this affects Lynn students, offering their support and willingness to advocate publicly on behalf of their peers. I want to thank this year's student cabinet members. At Lynn Classical, we have seniors Anna Malima and Gianna Cowan and sophomore Hunter Desaya. At LVTI, we have juniors Awan and Cassidy Galdames Garcia. At Frederick Douglass, we have a sophomore, Genesis Castro. At Fecto Leary, we have a senior, Amber Julia. And at Lynn English, we have a senior, Cole Kisiat, a junior, Emily Nugent, sophomore, Isabel Garcia, and freshman, Oluwatoni Edibi. I think I said that right this time. With November upon us, we have opportunities to celebrate our civil liberties and freedoms and honor the sacrifice and service of those who safeguard them Tuesday is Election Day, a day in which we should all fulfill our civic duty and exercise the right to vote. With the privilege of living in a democracy comes the obligation to participate in free elections that are the foundation of that democracy. This is a year where there is an important question on the ballot pertaining to education, question 2. As I noted in our last meeting, I am strongly in favor of a yes vote that eliminates the MCAS exam as a sole graduation requirement. We also celebrate Veterans Day in November. On Monday, November 11th, a day schools will be closed. Our music director, Julie Carroll, is overseeing several Veterans Day performances in schools across the district. I want to also thank the music teachers and young musicians for following their passion and sharing their talent with our school audiences. I want to thank the Lynn English High School JROTC for all of their school and public performances during this important recognition of our military community members. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Seeing no further business.
Motion to close.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
All right, E-Dub.